Rick,
What's up?
what's up, baby?
Hey,
How are we?
good.
Oh man, it's good seeing you, bro. How are you? How are you today?
I'm not bad, man. It's a beautiful day.
It is. It is a nice ass day outside. It's been raining in PA. I don't know where you at by chance.
Upstate New York, so
Oh,
close to Buffalo.
sorry to hear. Yeah, I've heard great things about New York, but New York people always piss me off. So it's more of the city dwellers that piss me off more than anything. So I think you're in the clear, but that's
I'm not
funny.
even a New Yorker, man. They don't even call me New Yorker because I'm more of a country boy. Where I live.
That's awesome. I'm in a small town too, so they consider me a country boy. But I mean, I play video games for a living, so it's a little different, you know. Oh man, that's awesome. Rick, I want you to introduce yourself, man. What you do, who you work for, and how long you been in the gaming industry, man. I'm curious.
Yeah, so I'm PR and comms director for Madfinger, and now I've been in the industry for about 8.5 years.
Oh wow, hell yeah.
So, yeah, first started with Warhorse Studios on Kingdom Come Deliverance.
Ooh,
Now they're on the
I didn't know that. Kingdom Come Deliverance. I think. So later in this podcast, we have a throwback section, and I saw a bunch of old like photos, like old selfies of you at like the Xbox conventions back in the day. I think it was like Xbox, and it's really cool. I did see the Kingdom Come Deliverance, but I've never played that game. So
Yeah.
I didn't know you worked for them. That's really, really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Oh man, what a journey it's been for you, man. Rick, I want to, before all the questions, I should mention, I just wanted to sit down and say thank you for the opportunity. Genuinely, like never in a million years, I think I would be in the position where I can interview somebody like yourself, a game developer of one of the hottest games on the market right now. I just want to say thank you, like genuinely from the bottom of my heart, and also a little coffee cheers. I know you got tea, I think, right? You said you got tea, but cheers to you, brother.
Right up with a little tea.
Oh, hell yeah. That's awesome. Well, cheers to you, man. Thank you again for being on the podcast. Now, some people, starting off, some people don't know this, but me and you actually had, it wasn't a one-on-one meeting, but in Fort Worth, when you went to Loot Fest, I got to talk to you, and something that really like stood out about Madfinger and yourself, especially, is how passionate you guys are about the video game process, development, all of that stuff. And you said some really cool things that we're going to get later into the podcast. But I wanted to ask, man, how has the release been? You know, Grayzone, all of that stuff. It's been very stressful, I'm sure. I've been wanting to ask, how has it been for you?
Yeah, no, it's been wild. It's been wild because, you know, it took off, and we knew that there was a lot of steam in a good way, but it even blew up even bigger than what we had thought. And now, you know, there's not much time to celebrate with that, though, because the team is working, you know, overtime on, you know, the bugs, you know, server issues, things like that. And that's just the start of, you know, our early access. But it's been really good. We have a lot of plans, but we have definitely a lot of work to do, man. So we're still trucking.
Yeah, 100%. And I'm glad that you brought a lot of that stuff up, because I do have questions about it. I did make a big section at the end of the podcast today to where chat can ask some questions as well. Now, I'm going to clearly moderate said chat and make sure that nobody's, you know, being a douchebag like the internet likes to be. But we do have a big chat question section in the end of the podcast. So I'm glad that you brought some of that stuff up. Before other questions, though, I wanted to talk about coffee. You mentioned to me that you're more of a tea drinker, which is fine, you know, called tea drinker, coffee drinker, whatever it may be. I wanted to ask, what's your favorite tea?
Yeah, actually, I love like vanilla mint chai.
Oh,
we have that 2 times a day, my wife and I.
Really? Oh my God. Vanilla, you said vanilla mint chai?
Yeah.
Oh my gosh. I've never had that. Like, that sounds like some exotic tea from, you know, Brazil or some shit, but that's crazy. I'll be honest. I've been in a really big like boba tea kick. Have you ever had like boba or anything like that? There was one at Loot Fest, I believe.
I have. I'm not really familiar with it though, even though I've had it once. You know.
Yeah. No, 100%. I figured I'd ask because, you know, tea is tea is tea, but there's different types for sure. Outside of tea, what are some of your favorite drinks? Caffeinated or non-caffeinated? You know, coffee with Genooo, we kind of talk about caffeine a lot, so.
I'm pretty boring with this, man, because it was weird at a time when I was just a teenager playing sports. One day I'm like, man, I don't like this Gatorade, I don't like this Sprite, and all I would do is drink water.
Yeah,
that's it.
That's healthy as hell.
Like I said, and that is kind of boring, but at the same time, the only other thing I would have to drink is once in a while those kombuchas. You know?
Oh, yeah, 100%. We have a lot of that around. We have a lot of different companies around here in PA for kombucha companies. It's very good for you, too. Isn't it like kind of like a, not healing drink, but they say it has a lot of good benefits, right?
Yeah, good bacteria and all that stuff. You know, I think it depends, you know, because some of them will throw in some extra sugar and whatnot, and then it's another way to make some bucks, you know? Yeah,
100%. Well, I mean, nothing wrong with water either. I mean, water's very good for you. People need it more, especially gamers. No, you ain't boring. You're just healthy, which I guess could be the same thing, but you get what I'm saying. If you were to drink coffee, what would you drink? I'm kind of curious. Like,
I've always like loved the smell when someone's having like what is it, the French vanilla or something?
Yes,
kind of coffee.
Dude. Yes.
Well, you know, the smell is great. But I just can't. I try anything with caffeine, man. That natural caffeine taste has just never been one for me. But I love the smell, so that's what I would have if I liked it.
Okay, 100%, dude. That's completely valid. Caffeine is there is a very solidified caffeine taste in a lot of things nowadays, especially, you know, like a Diet Coke. You kind of taste that like synthetic flavoring. Diet Coke's good, but I'm kind of like you nowadays. I'd be sick in the more water than anything. So there is nothing wrong with that. I wanted to ask with tea, though, ice or hot tea? Because I know a lot of people have their opinions on that.
Yeah, no, if I'm having tea, I'm usually having it hot.
Okay, fair enough. The simple as that. And then last for the coffee tier, we have a hot take. What fast food restaurant does your favorite tea? Because I know there's so many out there. Do you have a favorite?
I mean, if I go out, it's I don't know. I like sometimes adding maybe a little bit of nice little like local honey into the tea or something. So you're never gonna get that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? When you're going out. But if I do, I just get like mint, something simple like spearmint or mint tea, you know. But it's hard, you know what I mean? Like once you have something more that you like to do at home that's unique, you never get the same thing going out, you know?
100%, bro. Coffee is the same exact way for that. With, you know, I was so happy about coffee and everything that I literally made a podcast around it, you know? So
that's cool.
I used to just do like regular pot coffee, you know, just like regular brewing it up, you know, Folgers, right? And now I grind my own beans. You know, my coffee guy is in chat that gives me coffee for these podcasts. It's really cool. There's an entire process. It's almost like a little hobby, and it's kind of nice, you know? So I 100% agree with you on that, man. I 100% agree with you. I wanted to move on to the gaming, though. You're the first person I've had on that is part of a game development team. I usually have creators and stuff like that. But I want to know more about your gaming history. I have to ask, where did your gaming obsession start? Do you have a story for that?
I mean, the first time it hit me good was when I was probably, I don't know, 5, 6 years old, maybe 7. And my grandfather, it was the Atari, I don't know, 83 or 8600 or something. And it's the Atari, right? That was like back when Donkey Kong and Mario were a thing together. You know, Donkey Kong was the villain, you know? That was my first game. The next game was Pole Position, you know? And then it was, you know, once you had the local multiplayer where it was more like, I don't know, Mortal Kombat or Street Fighter, we would have people from the neighborhood come in. So then I got really competitive, and you know, but it started with the Atari.
That's awesome, dude. I've actually never seen an Atari system. I've only ever heard of Atari Breakout, which is a game that I used to play at school because we couldn't play anything else. You literally type in Atari Breakout on Google and go to the images, and it will like make an Atari Breakout game. That's the only thing I ever loved about Atari, but I've never been an Atari gamer. But I feel as though a lot younger than most people. So I kind of grew up on Modern Warfare 3 and, you know, trying to shoot dudes that were in another country as me. And it's just like, it's crazy to me, man. It's a completely different realm. But before we get into Grayzone, I have a lot of Grayzone questions. I want to ask some of your personal favorite games, like recently or all time. Like, do you have any personal favorites?
Yeah, sure. Probably like one of them being Ocarina of Time.
Oh, that's such a common answer in the podcast, dude.
Yeah, that's one. Another is I'll think of like game-defining genre, like GoldenEye, 64. Probably Graw, the first Graw, I would say is another one. So I definitely have a few, man. Like Resident Evil 1 because of that defining genre. Like those are the types of games, man, that define so many more today.
Yeah. 100%, dude. There's so many OGs out there that kind of like grew the genre into what it is. Like there's so many games, right? Like Call of Duty or Counter-Strike, for example, like really paved the way for first-person shooters. Arma really paved the way for realistic shooters, right? And it's just like it's really cool. Yeah, that's another one. That was before Arma, right? Or was that a?
I think it was before. I think.
Because I think there was an Arma mod that was like Flashpoint or something like that I think I downloaded, or that was like. I don't know. There's just so many games that
I get it.
You get what I'm saying, right? Like the genres and stuff are all over the place, But moving on, I did want to talk a lot about Grayzone because I mean you do work for people that make Grayzone. You're a big part of Grayzone's life. I wanted to ask though. I know there's a lot of games throughout Grayzone that people compare it to. Like I just brought up, Arma is one of them. Tarkov's one of them. And those games have been at the top of the charts for years. You see them in, top of the genre and stuff. Did these games help you want to work for a company like Madfinger? Like, did you see Arma's, realistic combat and you saw Madfinger working on a project like this? Or is it like, is that something that you just were like, I really like these guys and I want to work for them? Like, how did that process come about?
Yeah, I didn't know one single person at Madfinger. So that wasn't it. I didn't know anything about them. I just saw that they were working on a tactical shooter. And so that wasn't even a secret, right? And so me always working more on the RPG side of things, I was just thinking how much I'd love to work on a tactical shooter because, again, like, for example, Ghost Recon is my favorite tactical series of all time, and especially the older ones. And, like, I liked, the old school Rainbow Six Vegas games or, I like the slower pace, more methodical approach. And I just, thought, man, this would be great. I'd love to be on this side of the coin. And so I just reached out to Mara Merrick from Madfinger, the CEO. He's co-founder, creative director, AI programmer. And, he found out, or I told him that I worked at War Horse Studios, on Kingdom Come Deliverance. So they gave me a good reference. He talked to them. And now I'm working for another Czech company. So that's another thing that helped is, they were a Czech company and I've had a really good experience at War Horse and I like what they're doing in Czech Republic for games. And so, yeah, it was because I wanted to, get inside this genre.
Yeah, that's a really cool story. Like I said, I didn't know that you worked for War Horse before the podcast. So that's really, really cool that you were able to kind of have that reference. It's also cool that you wanted to switch genres. It's a lot of people are, I feel like they're confined within their job, so to speak, that they want to, do the same thing the rest of their life. It sounds to me that you kind of wanted to explore the horizons a little bit. You wanted to move on from, RPGs and stuff and try something else and work on something else. So I think that's really, really cool. I know there's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of great games that Grayzone's compared to. How has this whole process been for the team? Like, did you ever expect to reach over 400,000 sales? Like, was this like a shock to you guys? I'm sure.
So, honestly, that to me, that wasn't. I guess because now we're at over 700, thousand.
Well, apologies to me, man. Shit.
No, it's fine because the last time, that we haven't like. At some point, you're like, okay, you don't want to just like try and like brag about it. We just want to let people know about it. We want to let people say, hey, there's a lot of people playing this game and it's not going anywhere. And that's one way too, when you see a whole bunch of people buying into the concept of it because it's a great concept. And, Grayzone, I know you're talking about other games, but, the truth is like, so we even had the co-founder was lead audio designer on Viet Con.
Oh.
And we have guys that worked and gals that worked on Arma and, what have you. So I mean, I would say, just Grayzone Warfare, people will compare it, and that's fine. We're all gamers that do the same thing. But at the end of the day, people will start not only looking at Grayzone Warfare more of its own game, but in the future, people will be comparing games of Grayzone.
Yeah. No, that's such a hard quote. I love that, man. There's actually a question that I have later in the podcast that I might as well bring up now. When we met in Fort Worth, I remember it was me, Fudge, and I'm not gonna, it was me and Fudge were the two creators in the room, and we were talking to you, and it was either me or Fudge, and I was like, how does this compare to Tarkov? And you looked us both in our eyes, dude, and I remember this like the back of my hand, dude. You looked at me in my eye, or in our eyes, and you were like, we're not trying to be like Tarkov, we're trying to be like Grayzone Warfare. And I was like, God, dude, that is just so passionate, bro. Because that's such a good thing to have, right? Like, confidence is one thing, but being able to have being able to say like, oh, we want to change the genre is a completely another thing, like that's really, really cool. And I believe that it's going to happen because it's done nothing but good things already. I know there's, some issues, but that happens with early access and stuff, so that's definitely something we're going to touch on later in the podcast. I feel like Grayzone is scratching an itch for me, and I'm sure a lot of other people, right? I want to ask, though, do you play Grayzone in your free time? Like, I know you're incredibly busy. Do you play Grayzone?
No, dude, it is a fantastic, fantastic question because the truth is, no, I don't. And because on my free time, when I have it, look at my messy bedroom, because we have 5 kids, 2 dogs, 4 cats, chickens. And so if I want to spread my time wisely when I'm not working, I hang, like the video games I play are like Mario Kart, Smash Brothers with the kids, or once in a while we'll play something else. But, on my spare time, I don't play like any video games unless I'm playing video games with them. And that's the hard part, right? Because like I have like, what's that Star Wars Jedi, the second one?
Jedi Survivor or something?
It's incredible, right? And I was halfway through that. I'm halfway through Tears of the Kingdom. I've been wanting to play with the Evil Within 2 for like it's been on the back burner for over a year. Red Dead Redemption 2. So and of course with Grayzone Warfare, I try to sneak it in sometimes when I'm working and stuff because I try and jump in and see what's up with the community. Because here's the crazy part: I've always wanted to have a game like Grayzone Warfare, a sandbox game, one that I can play it the way I want. I don't have to play it just like someone else or even like a milsim, right? You can play it different. And I always wanted to have a game that was like open world with not knowing when players are coming around the corner. Type thing. And not that Grayzone is new to that. It's definitely not new. There are other games that do that.
Of course.
But more of this jungle, the whole environment dynamics, that's something that I've even always wanted. So I'm happy where my home is with Grayzone. That's
awesome, man. It's also to hear that you're busy. It's very important. I feel like a lot of people in this, I'm completely different side of like genres here, right? Like you help with game development. I sit here and look somewhat cute while playing fucking video games. Like there's a big difference there. But one thing that people don't realize is that when you start working with video games, I feel like the enjoyment for video games it doesn't deteriorate, but it's just not necessarily there anymore, right? Like it's different when it's our hobby, when we're working on something. I don't know if you feel the same way, but somebody like myself, right? Like it's hard for me to play video games off stream because I play them on stream, it's my job, right? It's hard to find that balance, and it sounds to me that you have balanced it very, very well, and that's very, very good for you and very, very good for your team because you get to sit back, relax, and enjoy the game and the progress, but also do things outside of the game and not get secluded to one genre, so to speak. So that's really, really cool. You mentioned community. It's funny. You're very passionate about this, which is why I was so excited to have you on the podcast here today. Not to be controversial or anything, but what's the best faction?
The best faction?
Yeah.
I like Mithras in principle.
Okay, that's what I like to hear. Mithras is it pronounced Mithras?
I pronounce it wrong all the time.
Okay.
Mithras, it
Okay.
depends where. But yeah, I like this whole Spartan mentality, and everyone putting in their all and dividing spoils evenly.
That's awesome, dude. It's been a blast seeing different factions and stuff. Also, I want to give a little shout out to the dog in the back. What's the dog's name?
Pete. His name is Pete.
Pete. We love Pete. That's awesome, man. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Oh, man. And talk about being busy. You got to take care of Pete sometimes, That's awesome.
Yeah, he stays with me, man. So we're like, who cares? Interviews, business, doesn't matter. He's with me.
That's awesome, man. We love Pete. It sounds like a good dog. That's awesome. I usually ask about the future of gaming with other creators, I'll ask other creators what they think the future of gaming is. But I want to talk to you more about the future of Grayzone, right? What's some of those things that you mentioned to others that people can be excited for? Not leaking anything, of course, because, we do have a question like that later in the podcast. But, what's some of the things that you are excited for with Grayzone?
Well, one of the first updates, and it's going to be a little while, but when we have like a big update, I can't wait to see, like the day and night cycle, something really simple, but in the junk. Yeah. Or, the weather dynamics where, rain, mud, and fog, steam, mists, things that will actually even affect, the ballistics in the game, and then of course, when we add in more factions, when we have factions that are moving around in the world, they're not just like stationary or at Tiger Bay or Bang Power, military base or Fort like we actually have more of a dynamic AI moving around. And the list goes on, right? We haven't even hardly talked about Ground Zero and what's going to happen there. So there's a lot more. That's why this game, you're between 20 and 30% in production. So there's the future of Grayzone Warfare. We evolve to where, it'll have a similar vibe, but it's going to be very, I don't know if different is the right word, but expansive and interactive. It's just going to take time.
Yeah, I think that's very important with the video game, any video game out there, like if it becomes the same thing over and over and over again for years, people get bored of it, and it's great to see that you guys are working on things where you're expanding the game and working on big projects, like I saw on TikTok the other day, somebody posted the Devil Dog clip of like the breakers in the houses, and every light is going to have a light switch. That's really cool, and that is something that I'm so excited for Grayzone Warfare, and I'm sure the team over there is too. It's such a cool change, man. It's such a cool change, and I think we can all be excited for the future of Grayzone, man. I do mean that. I wanted to move on to the content creation section. I usually ask questions, around content creation here, but I don't think you've ever created content, unless I'm wrong.
Nope.
What did you do before Madfinger, and did you ever do content creation? We kind of touched on Warhorse and everything, but was there any thing before Warhorse or game development for you?
Not on the game development side, and I actually used to work with, I actually helped way back when Fextra Life. Like I actually was like helping them getting stuff for their wiki and guides. So I did that, and I got to learn what it's like when people are trying to get codes from a creator's perspective. So I feel like, I got to learn a lot about empathy, because I remember what it's like with creators, how, they're always trying to get the game they want to get in, and they know what it's like for creators to get like the shaft or the PR responses. I know what it's like to feel like you're covering a game and you feel like you're not being noticed. And that's hard, because there's a lot of creators that, and here I am now on the dev side again, which is like what I love the most and why I love being with Warhorse. And I just think about all these things. So yeah, no, I myself haven't made content, but I believe that if you're empathetic and you're trying to think from a creator's perspective, especially if you have someone like us that doesn't have a budget for sponsored content, how can you really keep them in mind? And, and like I think it's been one of the biggest reasons why we are where we're at. So I'm just, you know what I mean? Like in anything, if you're trying to help someone, if you're trying to make a difference, you got to think of what it's like to be in their shoes.
Yeah. Put that on a fucking shirt, dude. I don't even like it's serious. Like so many people and this goes outside of content creation, even in today's world, so many people lack empathy. So many people lack sympathy nowadays, and we do we're going to touch on a question later about, Christians and a follower of Christ, right? I was born into a Christian family, I consider myself a Christian, and I'm very proud follower of Christ. And one thing that we're taught is to forgive, and I think that's something that moving on to the kind of like the deeper side of things, right? Like, it's very important that you look at things from other people's shoes, like you mentioned, because it allows you to realize, it allows you to understand why somebody might have done something, whether it be a hate comment online or like a specific action, right? You have to always forgive that person's point of view because you don't understand it from your point of view, if that makes sense. I'm kind of going off on a tangent, but I think it's, I think something that is very important within the gaming space is to understand, other people's shoes. And it's awesome to hear that from a game development company. I know marketing and advertising, and we just kind of touched on that, is a huge part of game development, especially for getting your game out there and all of that stuff. How vital do you think streamers and content creators are to the process of like marketing and advertising?
I mean, that's when I first started my position here, I was head of community. So it was going to be more so overlooking the community. But I knew quickly that if we were going to really make this work, to get the word out there first, in order for the community to even hear about it, is you have to go out of your way to those who are going to help get the word out. And let's be real, it's the creators, especially for a game like this. And that was like in the very beginning, even before the very first reveal, we had already talked to some creators before that first reveal in I think November of last year. So yeah, no, it's everything. That's so I switched and became the PR and comms director because I wanted to, I kind of just had this feel for what we need to do, how we're going to get it done, and how we want to communicate and work together as one unit. And the creators were the biggest part of it.
100%. And I think a lot of people, a lot of people get mad sometimes when it's like, like kind of like the early access or closed beta that you guys had, or closed access that you guys had with streamers.
Yeah.
There were a lot of people that were angry, like streamers get everything first. But the truth is, like, the streamers are the ones that are going to care about your video game, right? Like people like myself, people like, even part of your own team. You guys work with Devil Dog, right? Like, he's a big creator, right? And somebody that we have looked up to for years, and he's working alongside you guys, right? Like, we try and be the biggest part of a gaming development process. We try and be that. This is good, this is bad, right? And you guys did a very good job at asking about bugs and like what can we do here, what can we do there. You guys did a very good job at that, right? So good for you guys. Now going back to the community part, you guys mentioned with game development, comes a gaming community. You said you've always wanted a gaming community. The Grayzone community has been super nice, other than the faction beef. Is it cool seeing it all come together, like from your POV?
Yeah, absolutely. If I may, real quick, because I was just thinking about one thing that, one of the reasons why our community did get to where it is because, like we were saying before, of the creators, and because when you have a game and you want to do a test, but you also want to get the word out there, a lot of the community, again, wouldn't have even known the game if it wasn't for those videos getting put out there. And now because of that, and I feel like now where we're at with the community is it really, decent community that we reach out to through Discord, Reddit, and whatnot. And I'll be honest, I'm going to be very honest. There's this, one of the sayings in the industry is like Reddit, I'm just going to say it can be like the armpit of the gaming industry.
Oh, 100%.
And I know it sounds terrible, but it is not like that. I know it sounds like bragging, but I don't care. It is not like that on our Reddit.
Yeah.
It's not. It's like, it's not just constructive criticism. We literally had someone make a post, a day or two ago, you can look at it yourself, saying, and I've never even heard someone say this before, but they're like, this has got to be the most, what do they say, not peaceful, but just like wholesome community. I forgot what it was, but like, they were so happy with this community. And here's the truth, though. You're going to go in, and there is VoIP. So sometimes there's things that are going to be said. There's those messages that people are spamming with, and that's annoying, and I get it. It's more than annoying when people are saying this and that. But for, I think because of the, people who are playing the game and they understand the concept of, and we've been preaching this, with PMCs, we try to give you that immersion so you don't always have to be guns blazing. You can work together. You can work together with another faction. It doesn't mean you have to go in guns blazing. You can actually help each other do tasks, help each other with loot, drop gear, right? So I think people are eating that up. I really do. And because it's a sandbox and you can play it the way you want, and you can make up your own scenarios, and you can play it past the quests. It's working.
Yeah,
You know?
it really is, man. And it's such a good game because you know it's good when you can make friends from it. Like Grayzone is one of the first games that I played as of recently that I'll load into the main screen and I'll be at the faction base and somebody will come up like, yo, how's your day? Or somebody will come up like, how is this location? How is Banpaw right now? Is it full of enemies, or did you guys just clear it out? Like, that is the first time in a video game in a while that I've felt like community interaction to the fullest. People aren't going around saying stupid shit. They're genuinely caring about the game and wanting your input. And I think that's really, really cool. And I think you guys should be very, very proud of the community. And like I said, man, I'm sure you look at the community and you're very proud of it. I'm sure. Is that something?
100%? Yeah, no, for sure it is. For sure it is. I even played the other day. I hopped in and I was, funny thing is this was the first time I was able to play it after the early access release. So really? I started up like anyone else and I went into LRI and I took a trip with a random guy. I mean, I'm random to him. He's random to me, right? So we go to Hunter's Paradise. My first death was by another player, and it wasn't a team kill. So the funny thing is I just was chilling with him, but it's the game is mostly PvE, and I just thought, of course, I should have known going to Hunter's Paradise. We're closer to Crimson, and I he left because he was doing a task, and I was helping him. We were moving around together, and then I cleared it out, and then I've only tested the game with PvE myself. So I just wasn't even thinking, even though I know it's PvP, and I'm like, no, I know I cleared this out, and then it says who killed me, and I'm like, oh my goodness, I just did the most rookie, this was, if someone was watching me, it'd be embarrassing.
Yeah. No.
So every move did not matter to me.
That's funny, man. Dude, that's crazy. It's really, really cool and stuff seeing the community come together, like you said, and like I said, one more time, you should be very proud of the community. You guys are slowly forming over there at Madfinger. You guys got a bunch of great people over there. There was when I was having issues with some bugs in the closed playtest, you guys were very adamant to fix them, and you guys wanted to make it a perfect product. And I always thought it was so cool seeing how vocal you guys are with the community, and it's people like yourself that allow that to happen. So props to you guys. I'm sure producing and especially being a PR for a newer game, you've seen some crazy comments. I'm sure you've seen some hate comments or some just straight out crazy ones. How do you respond and how do you deal with the hate and negative reviews? Because when truthfully, when Grayzone came out, you guys did get hit with some negative reviews. People, weren't necessarily reading the minimum specs, but that's for another conversation. How do you deal with that stuff? How do you read the hate comments and negative reviews?
Well, it helps that I started at Warhorse, and I was a community manager and I did some PR stuff, but one of the jobs I had was when we had fixes, because Kingdom Come Deliverance was very buggy as well in the beginning. It took a good couple weeks to make some good patches, whatever, doesn't matter. Either way, the point was I learned really fast. It's just like anything. You go and to your forums and to your favorite team, like the New York Giants, my football team, and I remember years ago I used to just go in there and it's easier to be negative in general. It's just, so even if you have some great update and stuff, it's usually whatever it is, it's when they want to go and play it. But the people that are just frustrated, they're just, and it's okay to be frustrated. That's the thing. It's okay to be negative. We'd rather have people talking about our game than not talking about our game. So it's a lot of the times it's because they just want the game to be better. So when it comes to reviews, yeah, of course we want it to be. Right now it's mixed. It's 67 to 68% right now. And I'll be honest, I understand that. I do feel like some of the reviews to review a game in less than an hour or two, in my opinion, that's not giving it enough time unless you can't play it. Maybe there's some bugs that are frustrating you. There could be a whole bunch of reasons, but at the end of the day, dude, you can't take it personal. I will be honest. We're all humans. There's times where I'm like, you know what? I want to smack this guy.
Yeah, 100%.
It's true. It's no different than an athlete reading about something about himself that someone said that they might not respond, but it doesn't mean they don't want to smack someone. I think Big Fry, I want to smack him some. No. I love that guy. But that's the thing is, when we realize, like, first off, you know, in general, it's a lot of it's just fair criticism and passion. So we would rather have people talking and saying a lot of stuff, even the stuff they absolutely hate in our game, than not talking about it at all. And as far as creators, man, have at it. Like, you know, and that's the thing. We said it. We kind of said it openly about feedback and stuff, and pick it apart, you know, because at the end of the day, you know, some things will change, some we won't, because it is Grayzone, right? We're not trying to make it a big PvP game. We're not trying to make it a constant action on every corner with vehicles to make it more convenient. No, there's, you know, you have to learn how to, you know, as far as in Grayzone, sometimes you have to be slow. Sometimes if you can't take a little bird, which that's a whole nother subject, brother. and I get the, you know, that it's not available, and that's something that, you know, we're working on a little. But there is times where you gotta be willing to walk, you gotta be willing to run, and you know that's part of the game.
That's awesome that you mentioned it, because I feel like the gaming industry has become so keen to game development companies just giving them what they want. You know, I remember the first day that I played Grayzone, like when it was available to everybody, so many questions were rolling in, like, how do you do this? How do you do that? And I think it's awesome seeing that as a creator, because I'm tired of games shoving a tutorial down our throat, or I'm tired of games specifically like giving us the answers to shit, like instead of just allowing us to figure it out. And that's what I love about Grayzone, is that I hopped in, I had to figure this shit out myself. And that's what I think a lot of people love about Grayzone. I think that's what, unfortunately, gaming industries and game development has gone away from. You know, like you know, games before, you used to have to go on, you know, the wiki or whatever you had to do for it, right? The Grayzone, you had to figure it out yourself. You know, I don't know if there is a tutorial for Grayzone. I don't think there is. Is there a tutorial? I don't think
No,
there is.
I mean, you know, and it's cool because we know that people make guides, help each other out. You know, we've had Devil Dog make just a couple quick things to help, but at the same time, yeah, you know, so obviously there's adjustments we made. We literally made one in just a few days where we had the option where you can change your faction, and we'll keep balancing that out, you know, because we don't want it to be like easy necessarily to be able to just do it. There's going to be more reasons to stay in your faction, but there are going to be things we absolutely are going to tweak or change, and that we already are because of seeing how people are playing it. But there are things that won't, you know, like we're not, like I said, we don't plan on adding in vehicles. You know, it's meant to be what it is. It's meant to be a big world where we, you know, the goal is that every move does matter. The goal is that, you know, yes, again, we've worked on shooting from the little bird. We've worked on being able to throw smokes, grenades, whatever, and even that's being worked on. And then there's 5 seconds of invulnerability, so we obviously had to make changes. It was common sense, but you know, it doesn't mean we're going to take away LZ camping entirely. You know, if you're waiting at an LZ and someone else is coming in, you don't owe those people coming in anything. You can either work together with them, or they can try and shoot you from the little bird, but then they're going to have to choose a different landing zone, right? Do something different. So you're still going to have to consider your move. We're still going to stick to a certain vision, but having people play and us making adjustments, we have more adjustments coming. It's great to see from the community.
That's awesome. It's great to see from you guys, because, you know, people are very adamant about, you know, fixing certain things, and the LZ was definitely a good change. You know, I like the invulnerability. It was a good move by you guys. So, like, seriously. So it's really cool to see how you kind of deal with all those all the hate comments or, you know, negative reviews. It's cool to turn that into a positive. You know, it's very important for your mental health too. If someone wanted to be a part of a gaming project like yourself, you know, with you and Madfinger, right? Grayzone or not, you know, where should they start? Like, if somebody wanted to be somebody like in your position for another company, right? Like, where does somebody start for something like that?
Yeah, it's hard because a lot of people's journeys will be different. But, you know, if you really want to do it right, I think first and foremost, you go right to take your shot. You go to the website like Madfinger, right, games.com. That's where you would go and see what positions are available. But if you really want to try and, you know, make it, then you can't just be tunnel vision. That's not the only way. For me, I got myself into the industry by responding to a tweet. So you just have to, I mean, it was just like, hey, we need help. Warhorse Studios made a post about setting up a party when they went to LA. I said, I'll do it. Didn't know what I needed to do, but just said, I'll do it. And I just stayed in touch with them, you know, I mean, you can call it fate, God's will, which I believe that's all part of the deal. But at the same time, you got to be willing to go get it. You know, you Don't play the victim. Don't be like, no one likes me, no one wants me, because then no one will want you because you believe it. It's all about, you gotta put your heart into it. You gotta believe in yourself too.
Man, Rick, you're giving me some inspiration right now, man. Everything you've said, it just needs to be put on a shirt, man. You need to come out with some merch design or something like that. That's awesome, man. That's good. I wholeheartedly agree. I think whatever you tell yourself, going into the deeper part of that conversation, right, is that, whatever you tell yourself will eventually be true, whether it's positive or negative, right? I'm a firm believer in manifesting things and allowing, the universe or in our case, God, right? Like allowing that to manifest into your life, and I'm a firm believer in that, which I'm very happy you brought up. I want to go to the favorite section of the podcast. Now, this is everybody's favorite section, and I found some pretty good tweets for yourself. We're going to go into the throwback section, so I'm actually going to take my camera away just for this period of time, and I'm going to stream to you I'm going to stream to you, actually.
Let's see what we got.
Let's see here. That should work. Let me make sure that I can switch scenes here.
Whoa.
I have, okay, now I'm not going to, I kind of spoil it there. I found your first ever tweet, Rick, and I wanted to show it to everybody. And it's not bad, but it's just learning how to use this thing is all you've tweeted. And this was July 20th, 2008.
There you go.
Now, I'm not trying to make you feel old or anything like that, Rick, but I would like to point out that I was 7 years old at this time. I was 7 when you tweeted this. I was 7 years old.
Yeah, you're young.
It is crazy to me that I was able to go back this far.
Yeah. That is crazy, learning how to use this thing.
Learning how to use this thing, July 20th, 2008. It took a while to find this tweet, of course. I had to do a lot of scrolling and stuff like that. I just found it absolutely hilarious that I was 7 years old when you made this tweet. It's so funny to me. Moving on to the next one. I do have an old selfie of yours, which, like I said, I ran into a lot of media when you were at Xbox conventions and stuff. I did run into an old selfie of yours. I don't know if you remember this.
Look at my boy.
You were doing something for Division, I think, something like that. I was looking at the tweet. Wow. It was something regarding the Division. This is August 14th, 2014. I found this tweet. You and the homies here flexing, as you can see. But I thought this tweet was awesome. Seeing how young you look, not saying you don't look young now, but
no, it's fine, dude.
You've gone through you've gone through a lot of journey with life, man. So for sure.
That was before I was in the industry, man. That was just me. Yeah, that was faking it till you make it right there.
That's awesome. Now,
ways to go to E3, and I would meet up with some of the devs. I mean, my goodness, like Yannick being one of them, and one of the guys, he's French. There's a few of them, I think, that are French, but like Antoine, he doesn't work there anymore. But yeah, no, that was before I even got in the industry.
That's awesome. Yep. That's so cool. I saw this selfie and I was like, dude, I gotta show Rick this. That's awesome, dude. You guys were talking about the Division too. That's so cool. Now the next one, I hated seeing this tweet, but
give it to me.
You said earlier that you're a Giants fan, and I found a picture. September 18th, 2016, you went to a Giants game.
That's my buddy, yeah.
I'm a Steelers fan, so I don't hate the Giants too much, but I will say that the Giants aren't my favorite team. They're definitely not. So I got to ask about, being a Giants fan and everything. Did you growing up in New York, I assume you grew up in New York. How did you like the Giants? How did you come to enjoy the Giants?
Yeah, no, I liked them in 1989, man. I liked them when I saw them play the back then they were the Phoenix Cardinals, and now Arizona. Phoenix Cardinals were in the NFC East, and the Giants had beat them by a field goal, and I just stuck with them. My brother and my dad were Rams fans. That was when the Rams were Los Angeles. Well, no, are they Los Angeles again? I haven't been paying attention to football recently, but like that's the thing is crazy how things have changed, but. That year's when the Giants actually went to the Super Bowl and beat the Bills in the 89-90. So I just wanted to have a different team, and I loved like blue and red, for the Giants colors. So 89.
That's so awesome. My main mod is a Giants fan, and I'll be honest with you, I make fun of her a lot, Rick. I don't think that she should be a Giants fan. She's still stuck on the Eli Manning copium train, but I don't think she's here right now, Eli. So I can.
Good old Eli.
Oh, that's funny. That's so cool. That's all the tweets that I found. I usually do like a little Twitch clip section, but since you're not a creator, you don't have a Twitch clip, so I wasn't able to find anything. But I thought I'd show some old tweets. Everybody is a big fan of older tweets and stuff like that. So. I appreciate you helping me with that. I'm going to stop streaming and then turn on my camera again and go back to the main scene. There we go.
Yeah.
We are good to go there. Now, I wanted to ask, before we move on from the throwback section, Rick, I wanted to ask a throwback question. It's kind of a deeper question. If you could tell younger Rick anything regarding the gaming industry, what would it be?
If younger Rick anything about the gaming industry, it would definitely be more something that would be wisdom.
Okay.
About because younger Rick still has ways like older Rick too. So I'm talking to myself today. No, just about knowing how to keep on moving, go fast and go slow. Like hurry up and wait. Hurry up and wait. Because I've always tried to have different opportunities and. When you're an all-in type person and you try to go all in with others and they don't go all in, you can get frustrated and you feel like you're trying to drag them. And then I just want to throw them around because so I realize that, you can't try and force people to go up with you, man. You got to go and do it and help bring people along when you can. But sometimes you got to be willing to take that lonely journey.
That's
got to do it. Not take it personal because other people don't want to keep up.
Rick, you just need to start a merch company or something like that, man. You just everything you say is just so wise. That's so awesome coming from a game developer and stuff. Not saying that you guys aren't humans, but it's just like I always think with game development, right? You guys talk a lot about video games and stuff. It's very hard to be wise and stuff like that in regards to game development and all of that stuff. So I just that's so awesome. Moving on, though, I wanted to talk about the life and mental health section. So these are a little deeper questions. And I first off wanted to bring up, you're a big follower of Jesus. And I wanted to say, as a Christian, you're an inspiration, especially going back in some of your older tweets. You mentioned a lot of things in regards to, being Christian. And I thought it was really, really inspiring. How has religion been for you in your journey towards Christ? I kind of wanted to ask that.
Oh, so I think it's perspective on like how we define that word, yeah?
Yeah.
Because for me, it's funny, it's been more than 20 years since I've actually gone to like a church per se. And I find that I have never been closer in my discovering not just what I feel like God is, but even who I am, more and more. And, I find that this journey is not this outward journey because I think that's the problem. Is always trying to find something to fill something inwardly, and it doesn't really work. Yeah. It doesn't even work. Even my wife can't fill that spot that is spirit, because that's something that's not physical, but it's something that's a part of everyone, and people, when they go through experiences, they, sometimes we even always want to like categorize or label it. But whatever you want to call what you think God is, this is a source of infinite love and joy and harmony. And I find that like when I wrap myself more up with that it doesn't matter what I'm doing, I can exemplify that all the time. Yeah. I'm not saying that's what I do all the time. I could even give you instances right now where I will go outside and I'll be like, my daughters think I'm weird because I'll go outside my hands like this and I'm like talking to God or whatever, and just like about what is it going to take for this ego to die? I don't want this ego because it's my own worst enemy. And the more I get out of the way, then I also find out more of who I am, because the illusion is you feel like you're your ego. So you're always trying to label yourself and put yourself in a category.
Yeah.
So religion tried to put me in a category. And then it's like, I don't even care what you call me. But if there's one thing I like to say, is I am a follower of Christ, because the ways I feel like Jesus taught is the ways that are universal, about loving your neighbor, about forgiveness, about mercy. That's universal. That's not debatable.
Yeah.
Love your neighbor as yourself. It's the only way to live.
100%. You spoke it like we're at church, man. It's so awesome, because I was born into a Christian family. I don't really, actually, this is probably the first time I've ever told chat. I've never been one to bring up religion, because I'm sure you can agree with this. I don't think religion should ever be forced onto somebody, and I think I'm a firm believer in that. And it's definitely something that I follow every single day, but it's not my duty to go out of my way to push it on to somebody, especially if somebody comes into my chat and they're like, hey, Gino, I'm going through a rough time. It's hard for me to say, maybe pray about it, but there are some times that I'll bring up prayer and stuff like that, but it's hard sometimes, so I'm very, very glad that you're very passionate about that, because I think a lot of people are, and we just don't talk about it a lot on stream. So I'm glad that you brought that up. From the looks of your Twitter profile, your Twitter and your profile pictures, you're a big family man. What does family mean to you? You said earlier you have 5 kids, chickens and dogs and Pete, what does family mean to you?
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty much in this world, it's everything, right? Your family, it's when you have a family and you want to have a healthy family, you have no choice but to, walk hopefully humbly, making their needs more important than even your own, even though your own are very important. It means that you have to mature, you have to be understanding. Again, you have to learn how to live with people, how to get through the hard times. And it's so important. And I see less and less families these days, so I see the more value of it. Because we're not meant to just live alone or just live for ourselves, our own successes. So when I see them, it's just seeing my oldest is now 19 and seeing her grow up. It's like, man, it's the future is children, right? You kind of have to have children for a future. And raising them up is far more important. I would drop my job in a second over them. The job it's just a job at the end of the day. As much as I love it, it's just a job. Family's way more important. And I feel like if you can do that and not be afraid whatever you do in life, to make sure you have your priorities in order, I promise you, if you have your priorities as they should and you put people above yourself, you will always succeed. Even if it's not through dollars and cents, you will always succeed.
I'm so glad that you brought that up. I was talking on stream earlier how, a lot of people, I feel like, look at people who are rich as the happiest people in the world. And I always tell people that the happiest I have ever been in my life, I've never had to grow up and question where food is going to be on the table, if I'm going to eat tonight, right? I've been blessed that I have a family that I grew up in. I grew up in a suburb neighborhood, I'm blessed, right? And but one thing that I realized about myself is that the more that, I did well with streaming, and the more technical, financially stable I was, the less happy I was. And I realized that money was just, and I mean this in the most, respectful way possible. Money is just another materialistic thing. I think we all as people should focus on, things like religion or things like happiness. That is what, in my eyes, what makes a person rich is somebody being happy, and somebody, like you said, prioritizing people before yourself. That makes me happy just hearing that, and allowing yourself to understand that there are more people in this world than yourself. And in your case, you have family, right? I don't necessarily have kids or, a wife, right? But I do have family, and it's one of the biggest things for me. So it's so nice hearing that from you. From the time I've talked to you, even now, this big conversation we've just had, just being able to have a cup of coffee with you and stuff like that, you're a very open person. Have you always been like that? Have you always been that open person in conversation?
It took me probably till I was like 18, probably, or 19. It was nice being around. I had actually a youth group that I used to be a part of, and the youth pastor that was like really just like a big brother, and it took me a minute, and then it still took me another 10, 15 years to be even more comfortable, because you cannot worry about what people think about you at all, no matter who they are. Even when I got this interview with Madfinger, I was just being open. There was a person that asked me about like what tools I use and stuff like that. What and I said, honestly, when it comes to marketing and PR, it's people. And I'm not saying they asked the wrong question. It was just a question. But I knew that, like, when I answered this, I was talking about how if you want to get the job done, you get it done. And I didn't even give a good answer. I don't even like interviews. When I do interviews, like when I interviewed Devil Dog or Corey, when I interviewed him, we were having a conversation because I wanted to get to know about him. I didn't want to get to know about just his expertise. There's a lot of people that are experts, but there's no wisdom, right? Yeah. There's knowledge doesn't mean anything if you don't apply it, right? And that's what wisdom is. It's what you do with what you know. So that's what I don't know. There's things I don't know like others do, and there's people that are smarter than me and have more knowledge, but with the knowledge I have, I use it, and I use all of it. So I don't try and keep up with what everyone knows. I got to keep up with what I'm capable of doing. And that's where I go all in, So Madfinger was going to hire me based off of me or not. Like Mara's sitting behind me when the interview's happening, and he told me he would love me to hire me because that's how he is.
That's Rick. You've amazed me, man. I'm just going to be straight up honest with you. I'm sure chat can agree. Like, I knew you were a very wise person from when I talked to you in Fort Worth and stuff, but man, you are just I'm just amazed. You're such a good dude, and it's the truth, man. It's you gotta apply your knowledge, right? There are people out there, and I've always heard the quote that goes around: there is always going to be somebody who is more experienced than you. Okay, but that doesn't necessarily mean that they're better than you, or in our case, nobody's better than us, right? Like we all, at the end of the day, people like me and you, the only person that we fear at the end of the day is God, like that's, you hear it all the time. Like people fear God and stuff. That's the only people that, or that's the only person that somebody is better than, or that is the only person that is better than us is God. Right. And I think that's a very good point that you brought up, is that, what you learn is not necessarily what you do, if that makes sense. Right. Yeah. Like, what people learn in college, I feel like a lot of people, I don't know if this is the same for you, but people use their college degrees as if they're the smartest person in the world. And I'm not saying that they aren't smart, but if you got a college degree in communication and marketing, and I don't have a degree, that doesn't necessarily make you more smart than me within the marketing field, right? And I feel like a lot of people nowadays put their career and their schooling in front of making people feel like people, I guess, if that makes any sense. I don't know if you agree with that.
We all got to come out of the matrix, man. And that's one of those things, man. There's sometimes, the journey's great, and sometimes people will go through what they do, and if college and they don't come out and use it, maybe not, doesn't mean it's a waste necessarily, but at the same time, I'll tell you what, I have no college degree. I dropped out. I'm glad I did. And I realized that, it has nothing, and this is going to sound almost insulting, but it really doesn't have much to do with a degree. It's all about your performance and your effort and your willingness. And can you work well with other people? That's, you gotta have those things. And some of that is not teachable. You have to go through life and experiences.
100%. And it's a perfect starting point for the next question. I feel like in order to be a good PR like yourself, you have to communicate with other people well. And, moving on, I'm sure a lot comes with being a PR and dealing with the gaming community. I want to ask though, what do you do to get away from like all of this when it gets exhausting? When you see negative reviews or a hate comment or something like that. What do you do? Like, I'm sure family time's up there. Is there anything that you find peace in?
Yeah, I mean, you know what? As far as the negative stuff, that's not what that doesn't make me think about, oh, this is really bad right now or whatnot, because the game hasn't even been out for 2 weeks. It's in early access.
Yeah.
I mean, if anything, what I don't like seeing is when, you get people that they lost all their gear because of a crash, and that kind of stinks. It really does. And, but when I get away from all that and, the frustrations of people seem to have tough experiences in the beginning, even though that sometimes it can happen. And it's just the amount of work that we do, the amount of time I'm on social media and stuff like that, or not just social media, emails, Discord, phone calls, whatever. I have a friend that we tend to have time where we like to talk. In the morning, sometimes it's a half hour, an hour, time of prayer, time of just being men, talking about our, each other families. And it's always about us, we'll just say stepping up our game, how we can be real men. And how we can really be a benefit, not just to our family, but people, but to even our own selves. And a lot of that is done when we pray and stuff too. And it's just calming your mind. It's me going in the backyard. It's me spending time with my family. You know what I mean? Like, those things are important. And if you spend your free time, which I can do, but if you spend your free time back on a screen, you're not really calming your mind down, because no matter what you say, if you're on this, it's really hard to slow the mind down. The dopamine, all the things that they know psychologically, all the notifications you got to click on, like, that's not good to keep that going through your brain all day. So you got to step away and leave my phone in the other room. If I don't leave my phone in the other room, it's easy to pick it up so I can focus on the family. You got to get away from the screens.
That's the perfect advice. That's something literally my therapist told me. I don't hop on my phone for the first 2 hours of the day. At the end of the day, it is my job to make tweets and, release content elsewhere. But one thing that I was really having, trouble with is focusing and being confident with myself. And she told me, she was like, first 2 hours of the day, don't even open your phone. Like, you guys people on stream will hardly ever see me open my phone. It's very important, trying to balance not only, social media, but also balancing your dopamine, right? And being able to balance, your priorities within social media and stuff like that. So I'm very, very glad that you brought that up. And I'm sure being a PR comes with a lot of patience. Do you agree? Being a PR?
A lot, because, unless you're on the developer side, you'll never be able to understand the developer side. You can talk to people on the developer side. You can have friends with them. You can even visit a studio, but unless you're doing it all the time. So but here's the other thing. It goes both ways. Because you have to understand too that people being patient with your game, with our game. I mean, there's things that I love. The one reason why I love being open is, and that Mara does too. And we talk about things that don't always seem great PR, but we're just being honest. We're talking about like what it takes to make this game, the time that is being put in, even sometimes about the expenses and stuff like that. But I think, this patience part is, understanding that at the end of the day, going back to how we're talking about in the beginning, people really like the game. They want to give their input. But, when I'm even on socials, just trying to keep up with some things, I know that I'm being DM'd. I know I'm getting notifications. I get DMs, and I have some guys that they literally message me all the time. And it's like, it's fine if they want to, but I don't feel like I need to answer.
Yeah.
Because if you always are trying to please everyone, you're going to find yourself very miserable.
Yeah.
Very miserable. And so there's times like being patient is even just understanding that people are going to say a lot of knee-jerk responses, reactions. Just don't take it personal, man. So yeah, a lot of PR is patience.
Yeah. No, I'm sorry. I'm just thinking about what you just said. I'm a people pleaser. I'll be the first to tell you, I want everybody to like me. And I heard a quote, and I've said this a lot of the podcasts, is that if you're an enemy, or if you're a friend to everyone, you're an enemy to yourself, and I'm a firm believer in that. I was thinking about that, and it's like, as a big people pleaser myself, I always want to please people, even when people came in and, I've been playing Arena Breakout, for example, recently, and there's been a lot of people that will come in and, have hate towards me or hate towards the game, and I'm the first to respond to them, and my community is weird because they'll always tell me, like, you always focus on the one hate comment when you're getting 1,000 nice comments, like, you don't focus on the nice comments as much. And it's just coming from you, it just means a lot to hear something like that. I do know there's a lot of patience, being a content creator. So I wanted to ask about patience with PR. So I'm glad that you brought that up. Now, going back to some of the hate and stuff, Grayzone received a lot of negative reviews the first few days of release. We talked about that earlier. I want to ask, though, how are you able to deal with that? Like, not just you, but like the team itself. How are you guys able to deal with something like that and rebound the direction of the game? Because like you said, it's mixed now, like great job at, coming back from that and allowing yourself to, stay true to your process. But how as a team were you guys able to overcome something like that?
Well, I mean, most of the team just keeps working to make it better. They don't spend time like checking the reviews when they know what they need to work on. So the community managers, the people on the front lines, even myself, but especially we have 3 other CMs right now that are passing on the feedback. We have developers who are actually watching streams when people play, and they can find bugs while people are playing. Right. And of course the QA team. So there's too much work to go around to just focus on that, because again, they get the feedback from the community managers, and these guys like Corey or Foxic, Michael and Tom, like they're always looking at what people are talking about, and then we work on what we're able to work on, what we want to work on, what's really important. And so they don't get too caught up on it. And yet while it does, we want to see a mostly positive, they have too much work to do. That's why we try and handle that on our end.
That's awesome that you guys kind of take the weight off of shoulders. Not saying it is a weight on their shoulders, because at the end of the day, they're just trying to make a game that everybody would love and that that everybody would enjoy. The negative reviews aren't necessarily something that should worry them in a sense. It definitely is something that they should look at, but they're just trying to make a game that everybody can enjoy. So that's really, really cool. I know you guys at Madfinger are probably super busy, right? Like with all of these hot fixes and getting updates out. I want to say thank you from like a community standpoint with how smoothly the updates have been. It has been a while since I've seen a game development company come out with hot fixes as soon as you guys have. Even if the faction changed, the fact that that came out, you said, 3-4 days after release is so, like, seeing that from a community standpoint, I just wanted to say thank you. Like, that's, like, genuinely really, really cool to see how vocal you guys have been, and just genuinely from the bottom of my heart. And I'm sure I can speak for a lot of the community. You guys are doing a great job over there, and continue to do a great job, man. It's you guys are doing really, really good work. I've learned a lot, Rick, this podcast, and you are a genuine dude. You're a great guy. And from that podcast, we can kind of tell how good you are, right? How do you balance being a good person, but also being the first to respond to feedback? And, whether it's positive feedback or negative feedback, like, how do you balance being a good person? And kind of like earlier, right? Like you mentioned, sometimes the human in us, right? We want to smack somebody, right? Like, how do you balance that? How do you balance that all?
Yeah, well, I try not to separate the two, because you really want to be able to be who you are, and but yet at the same time, we'd be liars if sometimes we weren't like, hey man, thanks for the feedback, when you want to sometimes maybe feel like maybe you're not as thankful for it because of the way they worded it, maybe the way they said something. But at the end of the day, it's just like, I think you have to start with the right perspective. You have to start with, again, that, hey, what if no one was giving us feedback? What if nobody was reviewing our game? Nobody was talking about our game? Even when I see an article and it's for a press company that's like, hey, this has had a rocky start, they're at least talking about Grayzone Warfare. That's all we can ask for. So I try to start with that perspective. And, these guys know that, when it comes to responding, that it's not about us. It's not personal. So you can't take it personal. So when you do this, you're representing Madfinger Games and Grayzone Warfare and the team. We take all that in consideration. We have responses that we talk about that we honestly have, like, hey, this is how we're going to talk about it. This is what we're not going to talk about now. Something we don't want to reveal. Something we don't want to, quite frankly, even discuss at this point in time. Because at the end of the day, we're also humans. So I don't want them just to give a PR response.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But we need to start with the perspective of serving. We're serving people. This game is a service. Yes, we're going to stick to our vision. That's not going to change. Even if people are like, say, well, you should do this. Well, Grayzone Warfare has its own vision. But even the negative what we would maybe say is negative doesn't have to be. It depends on how we approach it, man. It's all about perspective.
That's it, but just amazing me, Rick. That's all it is, man. It's cool to see. It's so refreshing from a game developer that he'll hear something like that. You know, I've been a part of a bunch of gaming communities the past few years. It's just so nice knowing that you guys aren't necessarily letting the negative reviews, like, correct me if I'm wrong. You're not letting the negative reviews push you necessarily. Like, you're taking the constructive feedback, but I feel like one thing let me give an example, I guess. As a Twitch streamer, when we receive negative feedback, it doesn't make us push any harder for what we're doing. We continue to do what we were taught day in and day out, right? And it sounds to me from a game development perspective, you guys aren't necessarily taking all this negative feedback. You know, you'll release, updates and stuff like the faction change to fix some of the issues, but at the end of the day, there's always going to be somebody that has an issue with a video game, whether it be, your video game or somebody else's video game, and somebody's always going to have an issue. And it sounds to me that you aren't necessarily taking these negative reviews and you're like, holy shit, we got to do this, this, and this because this guy said something. You're taking it how you guys have always envisioned it, right? Like, you guys have envisioned this game for the longest time, and you're releasing these updates with how you envisioned it, but also taking feedback along the way, and I'm sure you can agree with that.
Yeah, I mean, Devil Dog, Corey, he just put out a community video, that he did. And we might do it weekly even, where he just, we have a spot in Discord where you can bring up like, any kind of questions, and we'll take those and see which ones we want to discuss, and most of them are what the people are asking. If it's something that is about the future, we might not want to discuss that yet. Some things we want to keep as a surprise. Some others are just simply talking about the status of the game, bugs or anything, things that we're working on, just so people know we're working on it. So, we're trying to be more show than just tell. And by showing, it's him making these videos talking about a lot of some of the known issues that we're working on. So you got to look at it from the fans' perspective, and yeah, it's about perspective. Humility, man. Humility. Yeah,
100%. I'm so glad that you brought that up. Like I said, and it's really dope getting to talk to somebody like you, and with how knowledgeable you are, but also wise. We just talked about that, right? Like, knowledge does not equal being wise and stuff. So it's really, really cool to sit down, and it's really cool hearing that from a game development perspective, I brought up the story earlier where, me and Fudge were both concerned, like, oh, is this Tarkov? And you were like, we're not trying to be like Tarkov, we're trying to be Grayzone Warfare. And I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And there's definitely been a lot of things said in today's podcast that I think we know that Grayzone Warfare is in some good hands for for the foreseeable future. So I wanted to say thank you again for being on the podcast. I wanted to talk about the future of Grayzone, though. The future of Grayzone is very, very bright. You guys constantly releasing updates, hot fixes, I can only imagine how excited the team is to continue the project. Like, a lot of the team is very, very excited. What are some of the things you guys are currently working on? Like, we just talked about it earlier, with the night and day process. But what are some, other features that you guys are kind of working on right now without leaking anything?
The first part, it might not always seem fun, but it's quite essential, is the very basics of, like, optimization, performance, stabilization, because there's server stuff that we need to work out in, as far as like in Europe, Eastern Europe, also in Australia. So those are the things we're focusing on first, even to a point where, where you start seeing some more bigger updates or changes, like that's going to be later in the year. Because, like, even there are some simple things that we'll see that are tweaked, and maybe, with the LZs, or not so much LZs, but like even the little birds with transportation, there are some of these updates that we want to improve things, and the features we'll talk about once we start making sure they're tested well enough to work. But I can say first, in the first few months, it's going to be, in general, it's going to be like, patches that fix a lot of things, and then subtle tweaks and stuff, right? Balancing. Whether something with weapons aiming, AI aimbot, like that's obviously something that we know we're gonna not just keep it the way it is, or hit reg, there's some things we saw in the AI at the back of their head, it doesn't register sometimes as well. So there's some things we have to work on, the shotgun, the pistol. And then But like I was saying later on, like one of the first like bigger updates is like when we do some kind of a wipe or whatnot, would be the day-night cycle.
That's gonna be awesome.
Yeah, and there's some things like we obviously, like a telescope is a good idea, and we actually had that before the game came out, and then we're having some issues with it. So like, or not telescope, flashlight, things like that. I think I'm in this like mood of the Northern Lights. So I was like thinking telescope. That's why I said telescope for whatever reason. And anyway, so like, it's gonna be a little bit, but we'll add more and more things in. Like we're even thinking for wipes or maybe the factions changing the location. So like Crimson would go where for example Mythras were, and then like LRI Lamang will go, so there's kind of like a rotation. We're working on like a karma system, and I think that's kind of neat as well, because you'll see more of a kind of like a punishment, whether it's a bounty type thing or something else of the sort, or going rogue. We have mentioned this before. So that, there's going to be more things. Plus, we also have to take care of exploits and stuff. So I think, for the foreseeable future, for the next few months, 4 or 5, whatever, we really are going to bring in stuff that's going to help more with quality of life. Then you'll see the ADS scrolling and some other things that we'll add in that'll, help stream sniping. We even want to help creators out with that.
Yeah, for sure. And it's like kind of what you just said, right? You got to have a working game to have a game to update, like what Saint just said in chat, right? Like you have to fix the minor tweaks before you can get into the major stuff, right? So 100%. Now I did want to ask, and this is for podcast purposes, and I want to feel like that one special podcast, but don't feel like you have to give any information. I wanted to ask if there is anything top secret that you can share with us right now, whether it be a new gun or like one thing that's coming out that people might not expect coming to Grayzone Warfare. Is there anything that you can share, like top secret, or
I mean, we've barely talked about it, but like the one thing that we have mentioned before is, remember with the Ground Zero, it's not necessarily just Ground Zero in and of itself, that there's going to be some. And remember, this game is loosely based off of Roadside Picnic. So maybe there'll be some anomalies and things that kind of shake it up a little bit. And we haven't said, it's definitely out there. It's publicly known, but I can guarantee you there's people that are watching this that probably have not had any idea that there was anomalies that'll be in the game.
I didn't know there was going to be anomalies in the game either. So that is something that we're all learning. So we will. That's a clip. We're taking that to Twitter. That's awesome, right? That's so cool. There's not much else to get into at this point, because there's different things we're checking. It's still going to be a tactical shooter. It's still going to be slow paced, methodical, whatever. But this will add some unique elements. Yeah, it'll be fun. That's going to be so cool. I cannot wait for that. We have reached one of the last subjects of the podcast. Now, I wanted to give a lot of time for chat to ask some questions, and like I said, I'm gonna moderate chat a little bit and ask you questions that I only think that you want to answer. Not necessarily. You know how the internet can be. But I did want to say thank you for being on the podcast and everything, Rick. From the bottom of my heart, thanks for being on here today. And we'll get on to some of the chat questions. So if you guys have any questions, chat, feel free to ask away. I will try my best. There were some people earlier that had some questions, so I'm going to try and ask some of them. This guy asked, let me just make sure that I don't want to fucking read anything that I don't want to. Do you foresee the map becoming a bit smaller to allow player interaction across factions to be a bit more common? The travel time to find PvP can be haunting sometimes. Is something they mentioned? I don't think that's...
Yeah, no, I can answer that. So it's a good question, and I can say no, that we're definitely not going to reduce the size of the map. What you got to keep in mind though is, so the game hasn't been out that long, right? And so what we saw in the preview test is, those who got to be 3, 4, 5 days in, who progressed more and got away from the onboarding area, once you unlock those LZs, the map all of a sudden becomes smaller in that way, right? So that's when you're going to find more PvP interaction. Like I said before, when I started this, just playing with another guy, and he didn't know who I was either, and I went to where'd I go? Not
Hunter's Paradise, I think.
I went to Hunter's Paradise, which is even close to, okay. Yeah, I went to Hunter's Paradise because I was coming from LRI, right?
Yeah.
So the first person I died by was a player because the LZ is closer. So once you have all the LZs discovered and you want to encounter players more, well, go to those bigger points of interest, or where people like to go to, Tiger Bay or, Bampa or whatever. I mean, like there's, and Fort Narrows, because people like to go to the military base or whatever. I mean, but more probably in the, like, I would say as we add things into the game, like camps, that's going to add 4 POIs right there. There's going to be things you can do at these camps. There's going to be other things that will bring in that PvP, but the game is more meant to be PvE.
Mm-hmm. Yes.
Right? With the element of the PvP surprise. So for some people, it's going to be 90-10, 90 PvE. For some others, as they progress in the game, it was one guy was saying 60-40.
Mm-hmm.
It depends on who you're playing with. Like if you want to get PvP more, have a good squad.
Yeah.
If you're playing solo, then you can't complain if you're not seeing PvP a lot, if you're just taking your time and doing quests. So it's a sandbox.
Yeah.
It depends on who's playing.
100%. I wholeheartedly agree. When I was in the closed play test, us streamers, we get we have ADHD brains sometimes, so we go and want a PvP and stuff like that. And for the most part, dude, I was running a 70-30 PvP. Like PvE was good, but we were focusing PvP where PvP was, and it was a blast. Yeah. It's cool changing that. Yep. There's some really cool, really good questions. This next one is kind of in a gray area, but I am kind of curious. He asked, Grayzone sold around 500,000 copies, which is loosely 17 million in gross sales, which is probably not true because Steam takes some, I know that. But how long can that number sustain a live service like Grayzone before they need to add things like microtransactions, subscriptions, etc.? You see that a lot nowadays, microtransactions and, other shooters nowadays. But I figured I'd ask.
Yeah, I mean, so it's a good question, and it's something that Mar hasn't shied away from. He even said, like, when you sell a copy for $34.99 on Steam, by the time you collect your own part of that, it's like $17, right? Mm. So that doesn't include, and these are things that maybe aren't even always something that people are like, why are you talking about that? But it's just the truth. And that's why we also have the supporter editions and stuff that like helps support us a lot. That's why we call it a supporter edition. There's no denying that helps us. But the thing is, like, we even also said that if we end up bringing in like some kind of transactions in the game, like for cosmetics and such, we would take the income, and he wants to donate it to charities. That's just something that he wants to do. So the game will not always be the same price. The more we add to it, it's not going to stay $34.99. Okay. When we start fleshing it out more, it's only 20 to 30% done right now. Let's even say it's at 30. This game could be in early access for years. There will be a version 1.0. We want to go on to consoles and all that, but over time the prices will change. And now we're at 750,000 or something. So we take that, and you have to you be smart with it. He likes to put it back into the company because we need to take care of the overhead. We need to take care of us. At some point people will get raises and things happen. So we're in it for the long haul. And these guys, it's not their first rodeo. They've been in the gaming industry, even though some it's their first time in the PC, some it's not. Some have come from AAA backgrounds. These guys are smart. They know what they're doing. We're going to be in business for a very, very long time.
That's awesome to hear. And I hope to see it because we need more games like Grayzone, man. We really do. I'm glad that you brought that up. Is there a plane? Is there a plane to show? Or oh my God, plane! Is there a plan to show where a helicopter is going to get before it gets to base camp? Could help with moving folks and freeing up transportation logistically.
Yeah, there's options. If we give more of the flexibility, like where to land on the way, something like that. Mm-hmm. Different spleens, different routes type thing. Mm-hmm. I don't honestly see us though, like, I mean, expanding the base or adding a bunch more of like little birds. We are trying to still keep this true to the genre. And to be honest, we do need to fix it for sure. We do need to make it better. But if everyone is traveling solo and they're not squatting up together, that is going to make it weight more, even if we were to fix it, right? Mm-hmm. So if people are calling in little birds and they're going one at a time and they're not waiting, that's more of like, you want to work together, right?
Yeah.
So you work together. That this game, you can play it alone if you want, but like if I'm playing, I like to do VoIP. I do. I think that's the best part about a game like this, is being able to run it. That's how I met my first friends in Far Cry Instinct's Predator, man. And we proximity chat. That was when Far Cry was like with it was Crytek, I think. Anyway, point is like, we definitely are working on some different ways to make it better. That's absolutely needs to happen. But also, I think people need to make sure they are traveling. Squat up or just hop on someone's little bird when he's going out. He or she's going out. But yeah, we need to make it better. Don't worry, we'll get there.
Yeah. And like Chad should know this. It's only been out for a few weeks. Like we're still in the very early access of the early access. You guys are still working on things and trying to make the game as best. Yeah, not even 2 weeks. I was looking at the time period and stuff. It was April 30th, right? Or am I April 30th?
So we are it came out April 30th. Yep.
Yeah, so 20 or not 20 days. That is 12 days. So yeah, not even 2 weeks. It's crazy. It's crazy how far you guys have come and continue to make hot fixes. Will there be any economy changes, such as making PvP more worth it as far as engaging? I'm sure you get that question a lot, but people just don't understand the whole PvE thing. So as making PvP more worth it as far as for engaging versus just leaving a possible interaction with an enemy player. As well as more ways to make money so endgame after tasking doesn't get scary with going broke. Any economy changes is what I...
Yeah, no, those are good questions. We're always working on ways to balance the economy. And I mean, if you do explore, there are some nice little hotspots, where you can collect some nice stuff, sell some stuff for sure. I think that we want to work more on, when you're getting rewarded for exploring, more looting. Is it going to come from PvP? Honestly, probably not. I mean, obviously, when someone's dead there, you definitely want to take advantage of what they have and take their equipment and stuff. That's part of the prize of war per se. But yeah, sure, we definitely want to balance some things out. It's hard to test some of these things until it is out there, because unless you have a super big team that can, test everything, like heck, most of the testing we saw and 48 players was when people were playing, which was crazy for us to do 7-day tests publicly. But we're like, you know what, forget it. We want people to get a good idea of what this game is. And then now that we had that preview test and now having it played for over a week, like, yes, we could definitely make some more rewarding instances with the loot and with the bosses, right? And, because we want it to be that way. There's another thing when you're looting containers or crates or whatnot, that unless you actually select it, or like stuff will slowly load in. And so people don't think anything's there, but you actually have to wait. I don't know if you noticed that. So what's going to happen is in an update, we're going to have it to where like there'll be a loading icon, because it was supposed to be more of a feature, like you're actually looking for something to collect. So, but ultimately, yeah, it is some things we're working on. Yep.
Okay, that's good to hear. Would it be possible to have a future in the future to have a radio system to the base, where you could radio back to the boys in the base to come fly out to you for backup?
I think so.
Yeah, Saint then said there was like an in-game party chat and stuff during the playtest and stuff. I think that's still in the game. But he says, I mean, to the people in the faction, but not in your group. Is that something that you guys have planned?
Yeah, there's a few ways that we want to even improve communication and whatnot. So yeah, that's one of them. And I don't know when that will come in, but yeah, we want it to be like, heck, even with factions and identifying and stuff. Yeah, there's a lot of like QOL things we want to put in there.
100%. That's any plans to add containers in the stash? I'm only level 6 and have no more space for things, Hangry says.
Yeah, well, you can get bigger containers as you go on in the game. But we also want it to be where even you can get we wanted it there in the beginning where you can actually get a bigger locker as well. And you will be able to. That's something we're going to do sooner. Hopefully sooner than later, is where you'll be able to even get a bigger locker through progression or however we figured out.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And it's also pretty cool, like how not necessarily how quick you get some of these things, but like for example, one of the early quests, you get the key case, right, where you can have that almost immediately, in one of the starter quests, right? It's I think I got it at level 5, I think maybe level 10, but it was really cool how quick I got that because coming from a game like Tarkov, right, we were dealing with pennies and shit for the first like 30 levels of the wipe, so it was really cool how quick you got some of that stuff. So I'm very, very glad that you brought that up. Trying to read if there's any more questions. If you guys have any questions, feel free to. I don't want to take too much of Rick's time, but I'm sure he loves answering some of these questions. So somebody asked about are they going to be bringing things that make PvP more worth it other than grabbing people's loot? Someone said dog tags. Is that something that you guys have planned, or once again, PvE focused?
Well, the one thing that we did talk about too is we want to actually give rewards for actually going over and taking a base over, pretty much.
Okay. Yeah.
Now, if you notice, that was a little bit of a problem in the preview test.
Yeah.
They were going behind the base, which now we block that off just for, the AI now, they respawn really quick and they have better gear.
Oh.
So I have not been seeing many people talking about that their base is getting camped. And I still think it's soon because so there will be that will be a thing but in general, there's probably not going to be a lot of rewards about the PvP. It's I think you will see some other things that I don't want to, get into that I think will add to it. But for now, if you're looking at Grayzone as a mostly PvE with the element of surprise of the PvP, honestly, if you're just an all PvP person, this game might not be for you because you know how it is. It's like I love, for example, Ghost Recon Wildlands. It's one of the best games I ever played, and I never got tired of the PvE aspect. But I would have loved to have PvP on, to still have these unknown interactions. That's what Grayzone, I think, is all about. Is and I still stand by that. I believe PvP is still an important part of the game. It's just, like we did talk about certain things like faction stats. So factions like leaderboards, maybe, because I think that would be cool. That might add more of the element of like a little competition. So there's going to be other things we'll implement, but right now we just talked about that one aspect of taking over someone's base.
Okay. Yeah, that's awesome. Somebody asked, are they going to be balancing AI specifically in areas like Tiger Bay and Midnight? I think you mentioned that earlier, but AI balancing?
So there might be some tweaks and stuff, but we still want it to be brutal. Not gonna lie, we still want it to be brutal. We want people to really feel like they are. Now I know that some think maybe they shoot too far from so many meters, or like going behind foliage. I will say they're smart enough, so you can't just expect that if they see you, and you're going behind foliage that you can't be seen anymore. No, they're gonna shoot through it.
Yeah.
If you're hiding behind a wooden fence, or if they have rounds, like especially if it's like a military and there's a metal fence, but they have armor-piercing rounds. Guess what? They're going to go through the fence and get you. They're going to shoot through walls. So they can shoot through houses, buildings. We've made it that way with the ballistics. So they're still going to be brutal. It's going to be brutal. Do we need to make adjustments? Hit reg. Sometimes it might, with a desync, feel a bit spongy. Do we need to maybe tweak it a little? Yes, we do. But it's going to be brutal.
That's awesome to hear. I love games where it's literally brutal. I'm tired of games making it too easy, Rick, and I'm glad that you guys aren't necessarily making it too easy. Will they be adding the ability to swap the candid sights? For example, the Spectre scope 1x4 has the iron sight on top of the scope, but there's no way to swap to it as of now.
Yeah, I think, obviously we want to bring in some weapons and whatnot, but here's the other thing too. We haven't talked a lot about, but there will be crafting at some point.
Yeah, I think somebody mentioned that before, right? Crafting's going to be a big part of the game, right? Like I can't wait to see what you guys have to offer there. That's going to be sick. Somebody's spamming, not necessarily spamming, but somebody has added me twice. ADS sense slider. So I assume he means when you're in a scope, the sense slider and stuff. I'm sure that's being worked on as well.
It's a QOL thing. It's what things that we want to put in one of more like the first kind of like maybe with a patch or an update of some sort. So, again, there's like, believe me, it's great because like Devil Dog Corey, he puts in this report, and one of the top QOL things was that very thing. So it's something that we, again, community feedback, we do what we do, and a lot of the things that they're talking about QOL is what some of the, we're working on a good portion of it.
That's
just
great
don't have an ETA.
Yeah. 100%. That's awesome to hear. That's definitely going to be something that's definitely one of the things that I was like, I mean, I wish I was this was a little faster, that's for sure. With crafting coming, could we possibly get animals? I think this is top secret stuff, but could we possibly get animals? I think it would be super cool to be able to go out and hunt the forest and gather meat to go back in base and cook up.
Yeah, well, there's a couple things. So one, the direct answer is no. We probably won't. It has survival elements, but Grayzone Warfare is not a survival game. You can see the effects of, like, if you're thirsty or hungry, you don't just like die. Your blurry vision, stamina's affected, but like we don't want to turn it into that direction. Plus, the element of, like, don't get me wrong, I love my Far Cry. I love the animals, I love that sort of thing. But this is very much, even though it's not like a mill sim per se, even though it is, you can play like a mill sim. People will still call it Grayzone Warfare mill sim. We still want that hardcore approach. We still want it to be where, like, we added that little mosquito in there, and
Love that.
And have some, like, the frogs, I guess you could say, even though you can't see them. But yeah, I don't think we're gonna be adding in animals.
Yeah, I mean, I figured that, but I'm very, very glad that you brought that up. I did want to ask about the mosquitoes. There was something when I think it was before the game came out. They mentioned something about how they were trying to stop people from necessarily playing the game too tactically, in a sense of, sitting at LZs or whatever it may be, and the mosquitoes got louder. That's definitely something that you guys wanted to add to the game or have added. Yeah. Is that something that's still being worked on, or how is that?
Yeah, well, there'll always be like little balance thingies, but it was the purpose of, like, if you're just sitting somewhere camping forever, that the mosquito would kind of like mess with you a little bit, get a little louder, so it reveals your location, kind of thing. So if you're paying attention to that, and I don't think a lot of people have, will pick up on that unless maybe people start talking about it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it's cool. There'll be little things like that we throw in there that we might not even like tell people.
Yeah. Those are the best features when they're not in the patch notes, man. Those are the best features. Will we be able to toggle the electric headsets so they can be used as earmuffs for the helicopter?
That's a good question. I don't know. I mean, I'm sure, like, we've of course, one of the famous things that people always ask is, like, let me buy earplugs, like or some more little conveniences and stuff. I don't know, honestly. That's a good point, but I will say that is certainly a feature. When people say turn down the volume, we're probably not going to really turn down the volume. Find those, the yellow the headphones, you can find them quickly on AI.
Yeah,
snap those babies on, or just whatever. But some more options is always good. So I'm sure the designers have talked about that.
Yeah, 100%. This guy mentions, are they recruiting people to help with PR and feedback like Devil Dog is doing? I'd totally get involved if they need more people. Is that something you guys are recruiting people for?
Well, first, I appreciate it. When I was at Warhorse, it was just me. I was the only person in the U.S. that worked remotely. Now at Madfinger, I made a case that I'd love to have someone who, can, be with me in the same time zone, can go to events if we want to go to an event. Mm-hmm. And not only that, but Morrow wanted someone who actually served. Corey's a Marine, like tried and true guy, and family man. And he Morrow also wanted someone that had a good knowledge of the industry. To be honest, not too many people can check the boxes that he did. Mm-hmm. If I'm just being honest, I'm not saying that the person who asked can't check those boxes, but not only that, we right now, it's mostly for people that work at the studio. Mm-hmm. So Corey and I are fortunate enough to be the only two that work remotely in the US. And I don't know if, like, we are going to be expanding. We need more people to, designers, QA and stuff like that. But it's mostly at this point on site. PR and marketing, we might actually, we might expand a little bit, but again, it's more like on site, stuff like that. Yeah.
Okay. I figured. Somebody is saying that full screen is actually windowed screen. For people with cheaper builds, it hurts FPS. Is that something that you've heard about? I haven't heard about that, but
I don't know, and I'm not a techie guy, so usually I'll just go to my the QA team, or the techie guys, which is everyone but me, and I'll be like, guys, what are we doing here? And then I'll ask them, and then they're either like, no, we haven't heard of that yet, or there hasn't been enough of this, or community managers, hey guys, what are you hearing? Because they're the ones that are on the front line. So I have not heard that one brought up very much.
Fair enough. Will there be any weight changes, such as the further you progress, you can hold a little more weight before becoming overweight?
Will there be any weight changes? It's possible. I mean, the realistic nature of the game is it's getting warm here.
No, it's all good.
Yeah, I wear my soccer coaching shirt, but
Let's go.
Yeah, let's go. But there's always going to be little, I think, tweaks and changes that we want to make over time. As far as the weight goes, I mean, we definitely focus, like I was saying, on the realism. That is important. I don't know if that will be a huge priority, at least in the beginning. But these are the things that there's going to be ideas that sometimes we may honestly even overlook, or maybe we already are aware. But keep those feedback reports coming, because if you just say it to me, that's great and all, but we have spots in Discord where it's good to bring these things up. I don't think they'll wait though anytime soon.
Okay, that's fair enough. I wanted to, for one, I should mention, chat, we're only going to do a few more questions, so I don't want to take too much of Rick's time. But I appreciate all the good questions. I wanted to bring up my own question because it's something that me, Jesse, and Hambino kind of talked about when we were playing. Something about the stamina. Now, we kind of did a deep dive of the stamina, and it was like, I want to say it was something like 11 seconds or 13 seconds to completely run if you start from max stamina to where you drain stamina. Now, I've never run with 50 pounds of gear on, 100 pounds of gear on, so I don't know my stamina, but I feel like PMC should be able to run longer. And one thing we've also noticed is that to regen all of that stamina back, it took 28 seconds or something along those lines. Is stamina something that you guys plan on working with? I know you guys have stims in the game. Is that something you guys plan on tweaking, or is that something that you're content with?
No, because we already made a tweak from the first preview test in March, when there was just like 25 guys or so that played. And because it was running out, even because there's a lot of things that factor. It's not just about your stamina or just being a strong, PMC guy or whatever. It's also, like hydration, your hydration level, right? And these things play a factor into, and also, of course, we're talking about, being in a jungle, Southeast Asia,
Hot as hell. Yeah.
So I would say that, a lot of the concepts that we get are actually from, because, for example, Spicy, who did the interview, he actually does the animations, like he's an ex-SOF guy. So a lot of when he gets ideas, he does not get it from quote experts. He gets it from experience. That's what we're basing it off of. However, we notice that, it's still a video game, obviously. Yeah. It's still a video game. So you got to cheat. That's why you can go back and loot your own dead body. That's not realistic, but it's a video game. Yes, the stamina is something that, we definitely hear that, you feel like you should be able to run longer, because if you're going to say, well, Rick, you're not adding vehicles, it should be common sense. Well, yes and no, because we will still find a better balance, I think, for sure. We still want it to be that it's going to take a while to get through the world. We're not expecting people to get to Nam Thaven from Mithras, down towards their base in just one playthrough. You can, if you get a little bird and you have a good gear and you want to, try and be a threat, getting closer to their fob. But yes, we do need to probably, make some tweaks for sure. These are things I think that are going to be talked about, balanced for a while now. But stamina is very important in the game, clearly. In the stints, yes, that helps. But overall, we're still trying to get it is a slow, methodical game. So we don't want it just to be running around constantly. And then, even like the bunny hopping, I get it. That was kind of silly for us. We haven't this bunny hopping in where you're jumping and shooting like Halo. So we were even like, we can't have that either. That's a little much for our game. So we have some adjustments to make.
Yeah, 100%. And you guys are doing very good at making those adjustments. Some of the last few questions, some good ones. Are we getting better loot? Somebody asked. More loot, I assume he means, better loot, whatever it may be.
Yeah, we were, talking about that earlier. So whether, it's not just dropping from bosses, but also from getting more crates, things to open up, more, places where, and eventually there'll even be maybe more points of interest that we open up that have something enticing and stuff like that. And then, like I said, there's going to be some things at Ground Zero. There's going to be some other things that even have to do with loot and POIs that'll really entice you to want to explore more. and what have you. So yeah, there's going to be more loot.
Okay, that's awesome to hear as well. Will there be a market system?
Well, so we've talked about it, and there's, we've talked about how it can work in our game. We actually talked about doing this in like some form of, we'll see. Well, let me say that.
Okay.
It's like, there's pros and cons to it, right? Mm-hmm. There's pros and cons. And if we do it, we want to do it that works within Grayzone Warfare.
100%. 100%. And I think market systems, they can also be easily, I don't know what the word for it is. Easily.
They can find exploits or some things that really take away from the dynamic in the game. So we have to be very cautious with it.
Yeah, 100%. It's going to take time for something like a market system if it ever happens in Grayzone. Yeah,
we do want to do something. I mean, at the same time, like rather than just dropping loot, we do want to have some kind of trading. We actually had talked about like a Buddhist temple thing, like a peace treaty place, like where you can. You know what I mean? So we'll see.
That's really, really cool. I never really thought about that, but that's actually really, really cool hearing that. One last thing. Do you have a suggestion board accessible through the game screen? I don't necessarily know what that question might be referring to. Do you have a suggestion board accessible through the game screen?
So if they're in, actually... not really, but yes, at the same time, because if you go in the bottom right corner where it says live updates, right now, at least we have it embedded, the links. Like if you want to go to the Discord, you can at least go in there and submit suggestions. So actually it is in the in-game menu. Just it's easy to not click on that and just go right to, getting your squad, hit and deploy and checking your server, the region, So if you look in the bottom right corner, there are links to where to go on our socials or where to put suggestions in our Discord, kind of thing.
That's awesome. One last question. This question is something I kind of want to know. Any sort of bounty system in the future?
And yeah, if you recall, like when I was talking about having like that karma system.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So I, essentially that there's the possibility where someone, team kills enough, whatever. You already know if you report someone twice, they get kicked from the server, but there could be an option where there's more of a bounty or they go rogue and, that it's interesting, right? Because you also want to figure out how that works rather than feeling like someone is tempted to almost want to go rogue. So they want to start killing teammates. But we definitely want to do something there. Yeah, we're working on some stuff.
That's awesome. I'm glad to hear, man. I'm glad to hear, Rick. Well, thank you again, Rick, for being on the podcast. Thanks for being patient with all of these questions and stuff like that. We really appreciate you being on, man. Where can we get Grayzone? Where can we follow Madfinger? Tell us all about it. Where can we get Grayzone? Steam, but we're
right on Steam, right up at the search. Gray, just type in Gray and it shows up. Grayzone Warfare on Steam. If you go to GrayzoneWarfare.com, it's our website, but we are doing an overhaul. Okay. Most of our updates, they come first. Well, they basically, our updates are on Twitter, so it's twitter.com or x.com, Grayzone Warfare, and then you have us making news announcements on Steam, and then of course Discord, and it's all Grayzone Warfare. So you search it, you find it.
Okay.
If you want it, you'll find it.
Sounds good to us, Rick. Well, I appreciate you being on the podcast again. Thank you so much for everything. We're going to be, making this podcast accessible to everyone tonight. People on Twitch have it now, but I'm very, very glad that you were able to be on and, give us your feedback and talk about Grayzone with me, man. I really appreciate it, dog.
You bet, Gino.
You have a good one, Rick. Thank you for everything, man.
Thanks, man.
Bye. What a good, I love Rick. He's such a wise guy too. That's something that I learned. If you guys are watching on the podcast, or if you guys are watching on Spotify or whatever it may be, just remember, don't forget to check out the Coffee with Gino Twitter and the Support This Podcast feature on Spotify. If you guys don't know where to find those, they are in the link in the description. And as always, stay safe, stay caffeinated. Bye-bye. Love you.